dreaming after you, chasing you in my sleep bag. You know it's early afternoon, but it's the only way that I'll finally see your face. 'Cause I've been thinking about the days when you were mine. No set of rules, and I've been dreaming as a way of passing time with me and you. Now wake me up, wake me up. Dreaming after you, loving you is my problem. I'm singing to your tune, hoping that you can follow the sound waves. 'Cause I'm already pouring my heart and soul into your wishing well. And I would never go the lengths that I've gone for you for anyone else. Wake me up, wake me up.
Nights like these are therapy. I feel my sorrows fading, fading away. I close my eyes to see the light that's shining deep inside me. I just can't sleep, get lost in these moments. Can't press repeat, gotta freeze it and hold it. I'm in too deep as the ocean. No, I just can't sleep, 'cause I'm lost in these moments. Lost in these moments. Lost in these moments. much to figure out. Check me, nothing to say now. Dead weight, we're on the way down. Now I'm in a free fall with nothing to hold on to. Racing for the end, praying for the wind to slow down the feeling and let it be somewhere new. Staring down the ground, it's coming soon. Wishing I could just be falling to you. Wishing I could just be falling to you. Wishing I could just be falling to you. Wishing I could just be falling to you.
Whew. So welcome back. Sorry I'm late. It's like perpetually late. Seems like work just seems to always get in the way. And my mic doesn't seem to want to stay in the same place. It feels like it's creeping up on me a little bit there. All right. So yesterday we got today's kind of one of those things where we keep going through bombshell after bombshell after bombshell. And one of the issues that when you have bombshells is that, I'm going to try and fix this while we're talking, is that you're always trying to figure out what is or is not real. Now, for the last 60 years, they've been telling us every book out there has said the same thing, right? Every book has said that it was Lee Harvey Oswald, he acted alone, shot JFK from a window. The Warren report says he acted alone. And yet the entire time they were lying. There's no real bombshells that have been released. And the bombshell, I think, more than anything else, is the fact that they've lied so much about the fact that of things we already know. Now, you were considered a conspiracy theorist if you said that the CIA did it. But what's worse about this is that the CIA did it and that they had help from Mossad. But it raises questions that I think we have to start talking about. And that is, what kind of government kills the president of their country because of a disagreement? Now, we keep allowing people to tell us that Russia bad. Russia's bad. Iran's bad. And, I feel like we're constantly having a conversation about other people being bad. But we don't have a conversation about our own country, the United States. We're like the big bully on the block. And if you really look at it, it's hard to ignore the fact that we are, as a country, we are institutionally so corrupt and so evil that it doesn't really align with the people in this country. We're a captured nation. Now, we're slaves by every way that you describe being a slave, we're a slave. You don't own your own home. You don't own a car. We're in a perpetual state of servitude. You give 56 cents on every dollar to the government. So we got to ask ourselves a question as President Trump goes through this process. I just found out, and I'm going to go through one of the things that are related to this, but I just found out that we went to the Colorado Court of Appeals. The same Colorado Court of Appeals at the Supreme Court, they denied cert on the deal with Coomer. So you had an Antifa judge who marched in the rally. You have a sua sponte where they basically just acted on behalf of the Coomer and his lawyers. You have them standing in the place and giving 8 hours for every person for Coomer, but we're only allowed to have a deposition pre anti-slap 2 hours. You're only allowed 2 hours. He gets 8 hours for every single person. So you have a completely tilted, slanted, shitty judiciary in Colorado, in a place, by the way, that no one is. Coomer's not even in Denver. No one's in Denver. They shopped it to the most disgusting part of the judiciary in Colorado, in Denver. And anyway, so we get to go to trial now. And the reason why I did it is because there's a bunch of maniacs and radical leftists in Denver, and they figured, oh, we'll take our chances getting in front of people who ideologically hate Trump and hate conservatives, and we'll go after Altman there. Really sad. But every time we turn around, we're asking ourselves the same question, and that is, are we going to do anything about these people? Are we going to do anything about these radicals? And so while the JFK files were being, dropped and all this other stuff, and yeah, I do believe. Look, I'm a believer. I mean, call me. You say what you want about what Pam Bondi's doing or what's happening, but I believe that we're about to have the hammer come down. I believe that Eric Coomer is going to go to jail. I believe the Dominion voting system is going to be dismantled. I believe that Clear Ballot and all these other companies are going to be dismantled. They're going to be put out of business. I believe in the next 20 to 25 days, we're going to see an executive order and executive action and congressional action to get rid of machines and mail-in ballots. I believe that's going to happen. I believe that's going to shake things up across the country. But two things can be true at the same time. While we do all of that, I also believe that the radical leftists are going to do what they continue to do, and that is be domestic terrorists. And at the same time that the FBI they were declassifying the JFK files, they were also declassifying a bunch of other files. So we got to talk about that. And then we have a special guest. Dr. Z is going to join us the show to talk about things related to Tina Peters. And, I keep talking about Sharona Bishop and Neil Bishop, who is a Fed, her husband, Fed. And, what does it mean? What does it mean for someone to come out and lie so succinctly as Sharona Bishop has, working for Mike Lindell? What does that mean, right? And Patrick Byrne came out and said, listen, there's only one place to donate money. We finally got it down where everyone's going to push to tinapeters.us. But me sitting on the other side, watching it all happen and knowing how the sausage is made. I've never been horribly popular with people who are liars, thieves, grifters. So we're going to talk to Dr. Z about Tina Peters and the bishops. And then we're going to also talk about the latest news from the border hysteria to what's happening with Tesla. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. And protests that are being organized by congressional leaders to go after Tesla. It's absolutely fascinating. All this and more today on Untamed. So stay tuned. It's going to be a banger. Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people. Oh, hot dog, look at you. And nobody talked about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is. So before I get into today and all the topics today, I want to talk about what happened yesterday. And I got a text message from a friend of mine, and he sent me this text, and it's Tim Romano. And I don't exactly know how to take the text because I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention to it. Apollo, I'm sending you the picture of it. Of the brick. So yesterday I was on the broadcast with David Clements, and my brother-in-law walked in and he handed me a brick. And on the brick it said St. Joe. Now, he was outside stacking bricks outside because we had this area where we had these limestone bricks and these bricks that were used on the house. And when the house was redone, we just have all this extra material. So he was stacking the bricks and he's like, look, St. Joe. Here's what I didn't know about yesterday. If you didn't know, yesterday was the feast of St. Joseph for Catholics. For Greek Orthodox, the feast is celebrated on the Sunday after the Nativity, which is 12/25. So this is the brick, and it says St. Joe. Now, if you watch the show, this brick with St. Joe, it was found ironically on the same day as the feast of St. Joseph. And I want to talk to you about a few things about this. In 1955, an additional feast was declared by Pope Pius XII and is celebrated on May 1st as the feast of St. Joseph the Worker. Date is also International Workers' Day and believed to reflect Joseph as the patron saint of workers. Symbols associated with Joseph include the carpenter square and lily. The carpenter square not only symbolized Joseph's trade, but also the concept of truth. Now pay attention to this. Let me get into this because this is just where it gets weird. The lily, which all can be seen in the St. Joseph University logo over the letter J, represents purity and Joseph's celibate marriage to the Virgin Mary. Joseph is the patron saint of the universal church, families, fathers, expectant mothers, travelers, immigrants, house sellers, buyers, craftsmen, engineers, and working people, among others. In the grotto behind the chapel of St. Joseph stands a statue of St. Joseph the Dreamer. Joseph is also considered to be a patron saint of the New World: China, Canada, Korea, Mexico, Australia, Belgium, Croatia, Peru, Vietnam, and several cities and dioceses. Although we don't know Joseph as the working carpenter, he is descended from royal lineage, the line of David. You're like, Joe, why are we going to go through this and throw the FBI stuff? Okay, so Joseph betrayed in work of art with gray hair and a beard. I don't have all gray hair yet. An older figure next to Mary and Jesus, often in the background, in the Pope's apostolic letter entitled Patris Corde, he says, in his relationship to Jesus, Joseph was the earthly shadow of the Heavenly Father. He watched over him and protected him, never leaving him to go his own way. We can think of Moses' words to Israel in the wilderness. You saw how the Lord your God carried you, just as one carried a child all the way that you have traveled. Deuteronomy 1:31. In a similar way, Joseph acted as the father for his whole life. And the first apostolic mission entrusted by the Pope of the Society of Jesus was given on the feast of St. Joseph, March 19th, 1539. On this auspicious feast day, the mission of the Jesuits began and continues to this day around the world. I want to show you something if I can. 100 priests gathered at Mar-a-Lago for a historic night of prayer led by Bishop Strickland. Florida bishops tried to stop it, but canceled priests stood strong. A powerful plea for the president to embrace the fullness of faith. This was yesterday. You just put that up. You would say, Joe, why is this significant? I don't know. How is it that on the day of the feast of St. Joseph, my brother-in-law is out picking up bricks and finds a brick that says St. Joe in the middle of my podcast with David, and then brings it inside and says, here, I just wanted to give this to you. I don't believe in coincidences. And I think that, so I called some of my Catholic friends. I called Kyle Seraphin, and he's like, well, I just want you to know that, that if you're ever going to become a saint, it's actually bad because you can only become a saint after you're dead. So thanks, Kyle. I appreciate that little word of encouragement. Then I called Kelsey and asked her a question and said, hey, what does this mean? As I start looking at my faith more succinctly on like, what is the next part of my journey? It became obvious that maybe it's not a coincidence. It just seems like a weird coincidence. So I put it out there that, I don't know, maybe St. Joseph is stalking me a little bit. And maybe it's a sign of a greater part of my faith journey. So we'll see. We'll see. So as we kind of get away from that, anyway, I just want to share it with you because you got to go through it with me. I want to thank Tim for sending it to me. Tim sent me a text message yesterday, and in that text message, he was pretty. He was like, "Man, you have no idea. This is awesome, Joe." He says, "Joe, as you're aware, yesterday was the feast of St. Joseph's in the Catholic Church. That brick that you found was no joke. You're doing God's work. Don't ever forget it. There's a reason the brick ended up in your hand. Don't doubt that 1 minute. I know you're busy, and I had to let you know the importance of that brick showing up yesterday. If you decide to run, if you decide to run for governor, my wife and I will come out and knock on doors and put in yard signs. Don't be afraid. We got your back. Peace be with you. Carry on, my friend, Tim." So, Tim, thank you. I will tell you, it's pretty awesome. I think I doxed him, by the way. Paul, did I dox Tim on the show? I think I did. Sorry, Tim. I think you will, for sure. So I want to play this cut from Newsmax. I want to get right into what happened yesterday with the JFK files. But here's the thing that I had to say. I was going through all things related to this clip that you're about to watch. And I wrote this post. I said, turns out CIA killed JFK. For 60 years, they ridiculed, attacked, and punished, or even killed anyone that called it out. And yet we knew, and they gaslit and lied with impunity. Does this sound familiar? The election of 2020, the fact that we're going through these cases and the courts are standing in the way and doing really bad things. Likewise, I've been canceled, suppressed, censored, and slandered over a call of Eric Coomer, the Antifa skinhead drug addict who stated he made sure Trump did not win. The guy that deleted his socials and talked about killing Trump, killing cops, supporting Antifa. The guy that wrote an op-ed article about how it was not his socials, sued me, was able to purge the entire internet of anything Eric Coomer, and I mean anything and everything Eric Coomer. Had New York Times write a puff piece about him. Had every newspaper in the country write hit pieces about me. Attacked my family, poisoned me. Had Antifa judges sanction and attack me. The list goes on. And yet the truth tellers, Newsmax, was the first to settle. Was first to settle with Coomer. Sued for giving me a voice to tell the truth. They were the first to do what every single news outlet does, fold and lie like cowards. There's so much evidence of Coomer being a bad actor, yet the charade continues. Speaking up has cost me nearly everything the world said should matter. Yet PHUK, Coomer, and Dominion voting systems and systems liars. And frankly, PHUK Newsmax. So I'm going to put this up about Newsmax. But make no mistake, I've been canceled by every fucking platform out there. Twice on Twitter, suppressed by Facebook. You name it, I've been canceled. I've had everyone write bad like I've lived a fairly good life. In the last 18 years, I would argue that I'm a better person in the last 18 years than most people could even imagine being. I have lived a life and I have done some incredible things, and mostly from a position of guilt. I'll be the first to admit it. Guilt of the fact that I have more than I probably deserve. I come from bad stock, and maybe I shouldn't have had the success that I've had. Talents that I didn't think that I deserved, and a deep desire to serve my community and give back to my brothers and sisters who, frankly, live in deserts. But the attacks that I've had, and I keep talking about it now, and I talk about it I talk about it a lot, is I don't want you to feel sorry for me. But it's a charade. What we're going through with the JFK files is no different than COVID. It's no different than the election. It's no different than what these leaders have done to gaslight the people in this country. The more you speak up for the truth, the more likely you are that they will cut your legs out from under you. And the more smart or intelligent you are, the less likely you are to be recognized for it. And when you stand up for people like Tina Peters, you will have pieces of trash that basically say, oh, it's Joe's a bad guy. Or people won't even recognize it because they're so afraid of the fact that they might get blowback for telling the truth. See, Galatians 4:16 means something to me. It's on the floor of my garage. And it means, am I the enemy because I tell you the truth? And the answer to that question is quite often yes. The truth is something most people can't handle. And if you think that they can handle it, then why'd they wait 60 years to put it out there? Why'd they wait 60 years to tell us that the Mossad and the CIA, the two most disgusting organizations in the world? Sorry, I don't think the Mossad by itself, the people in it, are intrinsically bad. Sorry, I don't. But I think the organization's mission in certain areas has destroyed a lot of good people. Because the people that are in leadership have made some really bad decisions to hurt other people with impunity, meaning that they don't have any consequences. And if we put aside the Mossad and we say just the FBI or just CIA itself, this organization is organized crime. They run drugs, they run money, they run everything you can stand across the entire world, creating global chaos. They act with impunity. Not one CIA agent has ever done a day in jail. Many CIA agents have raped children, raped women, committed countless murders, and they get away with it. You say, no, they don't. All right, go Google it. They had an entire deal where a guy was caught with massive amounts of pornography. There's a guy in Arizona that's a part of the conservative movement. There was an ex-DEA agent / CIA / backward / and he got into this whole thing and got charged. And now he's out there acting as if he's a savior in the conservative movement. Man, I believe in people making changes. I'm not sure that's what happened. I'm going to play this for you. This is a cut from Newsmax. And it's rather long, so we probably won't listen to the whole thing. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. Yeah, let's play it. I mean, it's Newsmax, but this is Carl Higbee. By all accounts released, it appears that our own government assassinated the President of the United States. I want you to let that sink in as you listen to what he has to say, even recognizing that Newsmax couldn't tell the truth if they were standing on it because it's all a matter of money and convenience. They don't actually care what the truth is because they would have stuck in this case with Coomer. They would have stuck in it. They would have gone all the way to the end. Play it.
Well, I have spent the better part of last night and today at the very bottom of the rabbit hole on these JFK files. And what do you know? I mean, not too much new, but literally what everyone already knew, which the government, entrenched bureaucrats, and overeducated institutionalists called us conspiracy theorists for. Turns out to be true. And if you think it's crazy, look no further than Chuck Schumer. He basically said the quiet part out loud when Trump was pushing the same buttons Kennedy was years ago.
To take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
And I'm going to prove him right, because much of what was released we already knew. But to illustrate exactly why I don't trust the government, we're going to put it all in one place for you, with the old and the new info, because it's pretty crazy how so many things are connected. Let's take a walk down that rabbit hole, shall we? You ever heard of a guy named Gary Underhill? He was a former World War II military intel guy who then went on to work for the CIA, working for projects such as special assignments that were classified. Well, in 1964, the Warren Commission determined that Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated Kennedy and acted alone. Shortly after, Mr. Underhill traveled from D.C. to New Jersey to confide in some friends, and according to newly unredacted report, what he said to those friends was, quote, He attributed the Kennedy murder to a CIA clique which was carrying on a lucrative racket in gun running, narcotics, and other contraband, and manipulating political intrigue to serve its own ends. Kennedy supposedly got wind that something was going on and was killed before he could blow the whistle on it. And wouldn't you know, 6 months later, Mr. Underhill was found dead, alone, and had allegedly shot himself in the left side of his head, even though he was right-handed. It was ruled a suicide. Now, in my experience on this earth, people who have come forward with information that incriminates big people or organizations that end up dead, I mean, do you really believe they killed themselves? Like Jeffrey Epstein? Don't worry, I'll get to that in a sec. Now, lots of other factors raise eyebrows, but did you know that JFK's car route was also changed at the last minute? By who? The mayor, Earl Cabell, who was, at the time of the shooting, a current CIA asset, and his brother, Charles, had been a senior member at the CIA that had been forced to retire from the agency the year before by JFK. Why does this matter? Oh, this goes on to why the CIA would have it out for JFK as well. You ever heard of an agency called the ICA, the International Cooperation Administration? Probably not. Why? Because they were disbanded. They were the agency that was disbanded after the Bay of Pigs disaster in April of 1961. Mentioned this before, where under JFK, the U.S. tried to invade Cuba during the Cold War using humanitarian and foreign aid as a front to gather intel for that invasion. That bad intel that was gathered landed assets in a swamp, compounded with the fact that Kennedy denied air support that doomed the entire operation. That tension between the intel community and JFK was only made worse when Kennedy famously said this failure that would, quote, he would splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. And 5 months later, he closed that agency, the ICA, which was seen as an attempt to hamper unaccountable covert operations. Guess what agency he started in its place? A little-known agency that was supposed to be more accountable to the State Department. That agency was called USAID. You see, prior to this, multiple agencies were using foreign assistance under their own agency cover to cover up their operations. The State Department, the CIA, and tons of others, many using the ICA as cover while competing to see who could out-intel each other, often with massive overlaps, and there were tons of turf wars within our own agencies. USAID was supposed to be the answer to stream all the accountability on that through the State Department. It really had absolutely nothing to do with building wells in Africa. Trust me, it was a cover, okay? As a SEAL, I was in countries that we weren't at war with for humanitarian purposes too, okay? I know this. Which gets me to the convenience of Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, the reasoning of Oswald being the lone actor was that he had met with Cuban officials in Mexico City before and this whole assassination then happened. The official reports allege that it was carried out as retaliation related to the Bay of Pigs. But was it? We know that LBJ and Kennedy had beef, which led to a variety of other theories, including allegations that LBJ was in on it, with people citing multiple reports what appeared to be LBJ ducking prior to the first shot even being fired. And one of the first things LBJ did as the president after the assassination, which raised even more concern, was to establish that Warren Commission I mentioned earlier to investigate it. And who led that? A little guy named Allen Dulles. Now, Allen Dulles had been the former CIA director that JFK had fired. There were also significant policy 180s, like the reversal on Vietnam, where Kennedy's intent was to withdraw from Vietnam, and then LBJ, when he took over, accelerated the war. Now, almost all of this is not new, and much of it the CIA was happy to release at the time, but what we're finding out from these recent docs last night is that the CIA had one request. They had no oppositions to releasing most of this stuff years ago, but they did have one request for redactions. Any mention of Israel or Israeli intelligence. Why? What were they doing? Were they involved in this? In fact, over a dozen incidences cited in the recent documents we got last night said that it was redacted from previously released documents. I don't have the answer to this, and these documents don't tell us. But this issue is part of the 1% that has been withheld all these years, which leads me to my already previous conclusion in general, that is, you can't trust the government for anything. By all accounts released, it appears that our own government assassinated the President of the United States, classified it, and then systematically leaked parts of the files over decades to the public, allowing for theories to be perpetuated for decades. Some of them were widely accepted as fact even. This type of campaign, that drip, drip, drip of information, that is a classic psyop that our intel community uses overseas to overthrow governments. Sometimes it's a method to desensitize people to the actual story when it does come out. That often confirms previous theories, and people don't even take it as a new revelation. Here we are. A lot of networks are.
I'm deep into the 80,000 pages. And I'm not surprised by anything that I'm actually reading. How's that? Not surprised by anything that I'm reading. 80,000 pages, and the thing that we're learning about right now is that our government ordered the assassination of the chief executive of our country in the 1960s, and they classified that information. And Lyndon B. Johnson accelerated a war into Vietnam that killed over 58,000 of our brothers and sisters. Nothing has changed about the Democrats or the Republicans. We're going to be joined by, there's more stuff to go through. I'm going to break it back down a little bit. But I'm gonna have Dr. Z join me while we break it down. So I'm not going to waste any time. You guys do know him. He's been guest hosting Tina Peters' show. And he's not a real doctor, but neither is Anthony Fauci, so we'll do that. He's a music business escapee, turned up, stand-up, philosopher, author, content creator. He had his spiritual awakening in 2013, which caused him to leave the music business behind. And then he got red-pilled. And then he dove into the election coup in 2020. All the information we know about 2020. The Eric Coomers, the Dominion voting systems, the, hey, don't worry about it, Trump's not going to win, I made effing sure of it, the Antifa involvement in the burning down of buildings, and really crazy stuff. So with that said, Dr. Z, welcome to the show.
Joe, nice to be here. An honor to be here with a newly canonized saint. Joe.
Tell me that's not a little crazy. Tell me that's not a little crazy.
I got my spiritual tinfoil hat is even bigger than my political tinfoil hat. I don't believe in coincidences either. Obviously, there was a sign from somewhere, someone showing you something. So that's pretty cool.
I've lived a really good life. My wife and I were talking about it, and I said, listen, I don't even know what to say about this. This is like one of the craziest things that's ever happened to us. And she goes, maybe we need to really consider what this means. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's consider it. What does it mean exactly?
Yeah. What could it mean? Look, unlike Catholics, I do believe in reincarnation. It's possible that your soul has been many places and done many things and been sent here at this time for this exact mission. I've known you for a while. It's pretty clear that last part is true anyway, right? Like, you're meant to be here right now to speak truth in the face of incredible liars like Newsmax. I tell people all the time, Newsmax is just Fox Light. Stop watching that crap. And I was actually kind of shocked in that clip to see that they actually called out Israel, because in my opinion, they're Mossad simps, just like Fox News.
Yeah, so this is my issue. I love my Jewish brothers and sisters.
Same.
But they're, you have really bad people in our leadership that have done some really terrible things to people, and they've done so and then hid behind their faith. Catholic Church did it in the 1930s and 1940s, and they negotiated with with Hitler, hey, just don't kill our people and we'll be fine. And I don't, you know, I struggle because I see dead people. And what I mean by seeing dead people is I don't actually see dead people, but I see things. So I have a natural way of never becoming entrenched. Someone will go, Joe, you have to hate Muslims. And I'm like, I can't hate Muslims. Well, they're radicals. I said, yeah, so the radical ones I want to pound in the ground, right?
Yeah.
But I want to be a better example to people in our society so that they can choose something different. They can choose good, not evil. Right?
Yeah.
And you know, the same thing can be said for those people that you know, that do bad things that are, I mean, like Mossad. That's like I said. I mean, you have good people in every organization. I just don't know how you stay in a bad organization with bad leadership, right? And so then what does it become? It becomes a bastion for really bad people. So, you know,
which all governments and religions have become.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And ironically, in my opinion, most of the radicalized Muslims have been radicalized by Mossad.
Yeah.
But to your point, I'm not one of those people that puts a whole group together. There are billions of Muslim people. Most of them are good people.
Yeah.
There are millions of Jewish people. Most of them are good people. There are billions of Catholics that have no idea.
There's millions of Jews, not billions. Did you say millions or billions?
No, I did say millions.
Sorry. I was like, what?
I was good enough there. But there are billions of Catholics, and most of them have no idea that their church is being run by Luciferians. That doesn't make them bad people and immoral people. We've all been conned and duped by this whole system.
Well, I mean, the JFK files are a perfect example of that.
Exactly. And, I recently remembered this, but I've been a conspiracy theorist since 1986 when I was in 6th grade, because I wrote a paper in 6th grade about the conspiracy to kill JFK.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
I read the Warren Commission report in college. Right?
Nice.
I read it in college, and I wrote a paper, and here's the weirdest part about the whole thing. I have been searching for this paper now. I've been searching everywhere for it because, frankly, when I was in college, I had a what was it called? Keyboard typewriter.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have a computer that I wrote this on, right? It would store what you wrote, right? But it was a typewriter. I didn't have a lot of money, right? And so I wrote it, and I read the entire Warren Commission report. I still have the Warren Commission report. It's a very thick book with a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And I remember going through it and falling asleep. We didn't have book on tape. We didn't have any of that stuff back then. Right?
No.
And I got to the end of the section that talked about corresponding or supportive information. And I forget what part it was. I was looking through it last night, and I said to myself, these people are lying. Like, this is not true. None of this is true. And I remember back then I was like, this is total chaos. This is not real. This can't be real. Because if this is true, then this had to be true. And so I'm looking for this paper so I can look at what my logic was back there in this, this 19-year-old mind of trying to work it all out. But it's hard to, now when you go back and you read, I'm going to tell everyone, if you get a chance to do it, go back and read the Warren Commission report. Go ahead and read the Warren report. Because by the time you get through a quarter of it, your mind will go, this is a work of fiction. I mean, the things they say about Lee Harvey Oswald and, how he was shot, and that, that they had no knowledge, and that he didn't have any connect. And so you have and then he was connected to Russia, and then it was because of Cuba, and you have all the stuff that they said. Dr. Z, I was 19 years old, and I looked at it and I was like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, well, look, a bullshit meter is, I believe, something you're born with. It's one of your God-given gifts, and you have a pretty good one. I do too, which is why I don't know why I wrote a paper on that in 6th grade. I have no idea why. Someone obviously put that idea in my head, and I ran with it. I definitely don't still have mine because there were computers back then. I probably had an Apple IIe in 1986. But it was, what's interesting is, like you said, there's nothing, and even the Newsmax simp said, there's nothing, no smoking gun, nothing mind-blowing in these reports. But what it does is we are in the middle of the Great Awakening. It's glue.
It's glue.
It's a really important step to show everybody else, look, these people you've been calling names for years, for decades about JFK, and now for years about COVID and the election and all this stuff, they were right. It's all in there in the declassified CIA documents. It shows what they've been saying for decades, that this was all bullshit.
Yeah. Well, Chris, not Chris, but Jesse Waters kind of breaks down the file a little bit. I don't want to go through the entire video, but put us on the side if you would. And let's start this because this goes through some weird stuff that was found in the documents. Now, I found weird stuff in the documents that I'm going through right now because I like to jump into the middle. What happens is when you break it down, people go right to the bottom and the top, and they skim it. Well, I'm looking for the nuggets. I'm not sending it through AI. I'm going to read every page. Right?
You're an animal.
But Jesse Waters breaks down the files a bit, and this is where it gets really interesting because then we can start to look at the minds of people in our government. Let's go and play it.
Apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Last night, the administration released thousands of unredacted documents related to JFK's assassination. Most of these files have been in the public record for years, but they've reignited theories about what our government's role was. The theory is that Oswald didn't defect to the Soviet Union. He was sent there as a CIA cutout. Because what kind of defector returns from the Soviet Union after 3 years during the height of the Cold War and just waltzes right through customs with a Russian wife? Some investigators believe Oswald was being groomed by the military-industrial complex and eventually set up as a patsy, an assassin who was sheep-dipped into Soviet and Cuban communist activities so that when Kennedy was assassinated, the country had no choice but to invade Cuba and maybe launch a preemptive nuclear strike on Moscow, something the Pentagon and the agency had been itching for. Some of these new documents bolster a theory that the CIA created a paper trail at both the Soviet and Cuban embassies in Mexico City at the time of Oswald's visit. Eisenhower, before he left office, warned the country of this growing threat from the deep state.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
When Kennedy took office, CIA Director Allen Dulles set in motion the Bay of Pigs invasion, a haphazard and poorly executed attempt to overthrow Castro, and he expected Kennedy to send in the military to finish the job when the operation failed. Kennedy didn't. He fired Dulles and created an enemy. Another one of these new files released in the document dump was a memo by Kennedy aide Arthur Schlesinger bashing the CIA after the failed Cuban coup. Schlesinger warned about the CIA's reach overseas and how it was encroaching on the State Department's role in foreign affairs. His memo urged Kennedy to examine CIA reorganization and cautioned that the agency possesses many of the characteristics of a state within a state. After the Bay of Pigs, Kennedy and Khrushchev came this close to nuclear Armageddon. And if he had listened to the advice of some of his military advisors, the world would look a lot different. JFK and Khrushchev began to exchange secret letters with each other seeking world peace. And Kennedy delivered a major speech on world peace. Listen.
What kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we seek? Not a Pax Americana, enforced on the world by American weapons of war. Not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope, and build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
Kennedy was determined to scale down the war in Vietnam and was more open to letting former European colonies chart their own course. While many in Washington were more interested in confronting Soviet communism wherever it surfaced, propping up dictators and authorizing assassinations and regime change on foreign soil. Kennedy was on a collision course with the intelligence agencies, who regarded him as a traitor. Something came to a head that day in Dallas in 1963, and there's still confusion over whether the bullet entered this way or that, and the intel agents who were swirling around Oswald the weeks and months before. Suddenly, the fired former CIA director, Alan Dulles, was placed on the Warren Commission, and things got a lot murkier. Jefferson Morley is the co-founder and author of JFK Facts, and he's been poring over the newly released files. So what have you found so far in this new batch?
Pretty interesting.
The person who was fired for the CIA was put in charge of what?
The Warren Commission.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just reminded about the magic bullet. So I want to say this, JB Fitz, the dumbest thing about it was the magic bullet, because it was so retarded. It was retarded. But people bit off on it.
Yeah.
The same way they're biting off on the fact that boys can be girls and girls can be boys, and that you can take someone that hates themselves in their current form and transform into something that they can or can't be. I mean, we're building the same operation now that we built then.
Yeah, well, what's interesting to me is the parallels of what JFK just said right there and what Trump is saying regarding the Russia-Ukraine war.
Yeah.
He's not seeking peace for a short time. He's seeking peace for all time. And why are people attacking him for that? I mean, you had that little Muppet Zelensky come out today and say, no, there's not going to be any long-term peace unless we get our land back. Well, first of all, it's not your land. And second of all, you're in no position to dictate terms, dude. Your country's been obliterated. Your people are being slaughtered. The Russians have you surrounded, and they can just kill all of you whenever they want. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Which, again, there's no common sense to it, right? There's no morality to it. So it's all part of the same system. And that system has been running for a very long time, and now it's being exposed. Trump is exposing the military-industrial complex for all to see right in front of everybody's eyes when he's offering a chance at real, long-lasting peace, and they're going, no thanks.
So, this is kind of a strange thing too. I think it goes without saying. This is a JFK Jr. Wrote an envelope postmarked from 1994 bearing the handwritten printed name addressed Senator Joseph Biden, Democrat from Delaware, U.S. Capitol Building, U.S. Senate Building. And it says that, dear Senator Biden, you are a traitor. And bearing the signature John F. Kennedy Jr.
How could he have known?
I'm trying to figure that out. I mean, this is 1994.
Yeah, well, he could have known. I mean, it's sort of a rhetorical question. Joe Biden's been a traitor for a long time, and
No. Listen. Joe Biden has been noted as being one of the dumbest human beings on the Capitol for decades. Yeah. Fact check me.
Yeah.
Go talk to any congressman that served with him, knew him, communicated with him, sat next to him. He has been known as being one of the dumbest human beings to ever walk the halls of Congress.
Does that preclude someone from being a traitor? I mean, don't we see how they use dumb people all day, every day now to carry out their hellacious acts?
Yeah.
In fact, dumb people seem to get recruited easier by the cabal. I mean, look at AOC. Look at Schiff. These people are retards. And they're traitors too, because they're so retarded that it's easy to entrap them and blackmail them. So I would imagine, I don't know this for a fact, I'm speculating based on what JFK Jr. said. I would imagine that people have known that not only is Joe Biden dumb for a long time, but that he's been a traitor for a long time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But inside of these documents, you had the Israeli intelligence service that was mentioned over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And these documents date back to 1954, 1960, 1958. And keep in mind that they wanted to declassify all this information when it was readily available to be declassified in 1998. But nobody did. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this one came in, stopworldcontrol.com, says Trump can't say it, but he's releasing JFK files that are saying it loud and clear. Israel killed JFK. Israel controls the CIA. Israel controls America. Israel controls the world. Israel needs to be exposed. This has nothing to do with the Israel of the Bible. Man, this is where conflict comes in my mind.
Mm. Yeah, because you're a good man. And you don't want to just write off a whole swath of people.
I can't write off a whole swath of people.
Nor should you, because it's not the people. It's the government. The same as here. The people of the state of Israel have been captured. Now, the whole Balfour Declaration, and you can argue and debate whether the state of Israel should even be there, yada, yada, yada. But again, this has nothing to do with the people. The people, for the most part, are innocent bystanders, captives. The whole world is captive of these illegitimate, psychotic governments. And I don't think Israel's any different. I just think that Israel, it sounds to me like, from all the things that I've said, seems to be like deep state HQ.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. And I think that people take that to extremes and try and say that all Jewish people are bad and they're all in on it. That's preposterous. I don't agree with that. I understand why people go that far, because the lies about the government of Israel and from the government of Israel for so long are so deep and so connected to everything and all the corrupt goings on all over this world. But again, we're talking about governments, not people. That's just like saying the United States, a lot of people like to paint us as the evildoers of the world, and the United States is just a bunch of assholes. Well, yeah, our government is, but we're not. And we finally have someone leading our government that actually wants peace, that actually wants to bring people together, and that actually wants to dismantle this structure worldwide, not just here. And that's why they continually try to kill him. So to the people that are always saying, yeah, but Trump's just another Zionist puppet. Okay, then why do they continue to try and kill him? And why do they continue to try and defame him and jail him? Because that's who's doing this ultimately.
Yeah, I look at it and it kind of blows my mind. The whole thing blows my mind. Because the more that we actually talk about the more that we actually talk about holistically who's responsible and what they're responsible for, and we get to the bottom of it, the more you start to realize that it's a fraternity of evil. And it doesn't matter that there's Republicans a part of it, Democrats a part of it. It doesn't, I think people that are just flat evil that are a part of it. And we're sitting here having a conversation about Jews, non-Jews. There's a fraternity. They built a fraternity that takes away just the basic dignity of the people in America, and made the poor poorer, and have created an elitist environment that makes us all slaves. But Dr. Z, there's something else. Apollo put this up actually, and Apollo's kind of freakish in this. He digs deep. He sometimes he digs too deep. But he dug in this. He says, wait, so the FBI dropping files unannounced over 2 weeks leading up to release of JFK files. They dropped files on Kissinger, on OJ. By the way, I want to know what my file looks like, Apollo.
Do you?
The dating game serial killer, Nick Berg, who was beheaded in Iraq. Mark Reno torched Planned Parenthood. A journalist who worked for CSIS and whose father was head of the Belgian military intelligence. A Dem congressman from Maryland who introduced articles of impeachment against Nixon. A neo-Nazi Klan leader who won the Dem party nomination of House of Reps. The highest-ranking CIA official in the Iran-Contra trial who was convicted for lying to Congress and later pardoned by Bush. A Temple of Set immediately mentioned the Presidio. The investigations into the Amorc under the first director of the FBI. Dr. Z, what, I mean, is this, is there something?
What a time to be alive, Joe. I saw this yesterday, almost right after he posted it. And I immediately liked it and immediately said what he said, which was, wait, what?
Yeah.
And even though I know Apollo and love Apollo and trust him more than 99.99% of the population posting stuff like this, I still waited till this morning to repost that because I wanted to see where the dust settled because that was such a big boom post. I was like, wait a minute, that's all. They just did all that in the background while everybody else was distracted waiting for the Epstein files and the JFK files and everything else. You still have the people out there going, oh, okay, well, that's great about JFK, but give me the Epstein files. Settle down. Like, look, this is peeling away an onion, a 1,000-year-old onion. And you have to peel away all the layers and show all the layers. And that post just shows how layered it is. OJ? Did anybody think OJ was going to be part of this new D class of FBI and CIA documents?
But did you see the OJ files?
I did not. I did not get a chance to look at those.
It's a little ridiculous. The first 50 pages are of shoes. I'm not kidding.
I know you're not. That's why I'm laughing.
Apollo, you should pull it up just to. They're of loafers, shoes.
But again, like, what do all these things have in common? I didn't think about this till right now. It's that we all kind of knew they were all bullshit.
Yeah.
But for some reason, now they're all being shown to us that, yes, you were right. They were all bullshit. I mean, look, I was in LA in college when the OJ stuff went down. I remember thinking at the time, this is bullshit. This guy did it. Everybody knew it. It was an open secret. Everybody knew it. And then Johnny Cochran went up there and did his, tap dance and got him off. That doesn't just means he was found not guilty, doesn't mean he's innocent. And I said it at the time. Hey, God knows everything. And karma is undefeated and doesn't forget. So he's going to pay for this.
All right, go to page 50 of that OJ deal. Should we do this real quick?
Yeah, I'd love to because I haven't seen it yet.
You're just gonna blow your mind. Federal Bureau of Investigation.
While he's queuing that up, what I was trying to get to is that they're showing us, Trump and team are showing us hey, you guys have been right. All this stuff that you thought was bullshit, you were right. Here's all the evidence. Go ahead.
No, it's this is a letter. The pursuant to your conversation with so-and-so, please find the copy of the defense motion to exclude DNA evidence. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. And then Dr. Shapiro, or dear Mr. Shapiro, next one. I have been authorized by Los Angeles County Deputy District Attorney to formally request the assistance of FBI research scientists for the admission of hearing in the case of People versus Arenthal James Simpson, now pending in Los Angeles County. The admissibility hearing is tentatively scheduled. And if you go through this, you do remember the DNA evidence was excluded, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's the information, though. It's his DNA. right?
Again, shocking, right?
Which is nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have the evidence that shows that he's guilty of murder. And this by itself should show you. It gets more. I mean, you can go into it and you go to.
But if that was admitted as it should have been in any reasonable trial, they would have found him guilty. But look, this reminds me of, I got a text yesterday. You guys have heard all the hubbub about the pyramids and these new scans of the pyramids. And there are these structures below the pyramids that go down 2 kilometers. And my friend texted me, he's like, can you believe this? I'm like, well, yeah. Because you're not blown away by this? I'm like, no. I knew those things were power stations for more than a decade. So did I know that there were structures underneath that were part of that? No, but none of this is surprising.
Power stations? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
dude, I don't even want to ask any more questions about this. I'm not even asking more questions about it.
We don't have to. But that's what
I'm just getting through the part where the OJ is guilty with the DNA evidence. You got to leave me alone for a minute.
Well, this is it now, man. There's no leaving alone. We're being pelted with untamed truth from every direction all of the sudden, right? All the stuff we've been waiting so long to hear and talk about and have public discussions about, it's all coming all at once. And you're right, it's exhausting and in certain instances terrifying to realize that our whole lives have been a lie. But that's what the Great Awakening is. We've been lied to about everything. This is not for the faint of heart. And we're all gonna, Joe, I'm not sitting here saying I'm someone who I know all the secrets. Of course I don't. We're all going to be faced with things that are going to shake us to our core as the untamed truth gets released to the general public. Each and every one of us. I don't care how awake you are, how based you think you are. There's things you're going to learn that are going to make you want to go curl up in a corner and cry. Because that's where we are in this phase of the information war. This is how we become liberated as people. There's no freedom unless we know all of the dark truths. And we're now in a place where, those are being shown to us. Some of them are as simple as OJ's DNA being the DNA that was excluded. Others are, change the way we view the entire world and our existence here. And when I had my spiritual awakening that you mentioned in 2013, I was told by God that one day people are going to learn the truth about who we are and where we come from and what our capabilities are, being godly beings. And when those truths come out, people are going to be so stunned and shocked that they're going to need people like me to help them find the way forward. And that's why I'm here. That's what my mission is. All of this stuff up until now that I've been doing, doing tours and podcasts and all that stuff, that's just only to try and accelerate to get to the point where we can all learn these disgusting truths that we've been lied about. And then we can all finally come together as people, not as governments and the corrupt scumbags, but as people, as a humanity, and go, okay, where do we go from here?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And in many cases, somebody just asked me to put the link in there. So I put the FBI vault in there. I also put something funny in there for some of you for the fact that Elon Musk.
You need comic relief during this for sure.
So let's switch gears. We got through the FBI. Let's talk about Tina Peters.
Yeah.
You've been guest hosting the show, and you revealed that Tina Peters has not been receiving any money on the Lindell Offense Fund. Who's using her name to profit from it. So I need to make a public statement now, because Patrick came out, put a thing out that said that, look, it doesn't matter. It's water under the bridge. It's murky. We don't want to talk about the murky. We just want to talk about the only place now to send money. And that is tinapeters.us. If you want to help Tina Peters, go to tinapeters.us. The link in there will take you to Give, Send, Go that goes to Tina Peters. But, there is a person that I do want to talk about that her husband is a Fed, massive Fed. His name's Neil Bishop. He called me the clown. I'm now the clown, which is fine. You can call me whatever you want. As long as all the money is now going to Tina's defense, I don't actually care. Mission accomplished, right? But Sharona Bishop and Neil Bishop have been out there slandering. Apollo is now a drug addict. Apollo, did you know you're a drug addict?
I did learn that. Apparently, apparently I am always high. Apparently when I'm here and I'm on the show and I'm literally always blasted. And apparently everybody is known for years. So forgive me, all of you, for being behind the ball on that one. And I appreciate all your patience, as I have been a raging drug addict without realizing it.
Yeah, I mean,
and you're really good at this for a guy that's high all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's credit. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, he's the claims made by this hairdresser. By the way, she's a hairdresser. She's the arbiter of reality. Her husband is a Fed. Who they live in Texas now. Now they're interfering with what happens in Colorado. They live in Texas full time, and they're up here interfering and trying to figure out who they can place in different positions inside the GOP. Fed behavior. I mean, total Fed behavior. Called Apollo a drug addict, and I don't even know what else. He doesn't even do drugs, and he doesn't drink. So I don't even know what they're talking about. But people know for a long time that he's both those things. Claiming that we have handled Tina and that we're committing elder abuse. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Z?
I'm not sure I can publicly say them on your show because there's a lot of expletives. Look, elder abuse. I mean, as you said, I've guest hosted now. I think it's 4 weeks in a row for Tina's show. I've said on Tina's show that Tina and the people that have helped her have made mistakes throughout this process. That's just life. We all make mistakes. None of that adds up to her for it being right that she's incarcerated right now. None of it.
No.
And you guys are the only ones who never stop talking about this, ever. And to say that you're handling her and elder, first of all, you obviously know nothing about the behind the scenes that goes on with Tina, because since I've started guest hosting, I've learned that nobody handles Tina Peters.
No, they
including
don't.
The deputies that are her jailers, to where she's been, trying to improve the jail conditions for the other women that are held there. And I'm sitting here going, Tina, don't do that. Just quietly do your time until we can get you out of there. Nobody handles Tina Peters. So that's a preposterous statement. You guys are the only ones who have continually tried to help her. And I appreciate what you said, and that everybody who wants to give money to Tina should go to tinapeters.us. But in your chat on this show, someone just said that they received an email from Mike Lindell asking to give to his fund on behalf of Tina Peters.
Mm-hmm.
So something is still going on there. And again, because this is on tape, I don't want to get you guys in trouble, and I don't.
You're not going to get me. What are you going to get me in trouble for? I own my own deal. Yeah, I own my own deal. Look, I walked away from it, and Mike and I talk quite often. And he's been let off cliffs. And here's the problem: you have people in so many different places that are some of the dumbest fucking human beings known to man, who grift and graft. Dr. Z, Mike was getting grifted and grafted by documentary people. Oh, I need $500,000. Oh, I have hard costs. I remember sitting in there. This is the first time that I was standing with Mike, and he says, Joe, come with me. I need you to come with me. And I'm like, okay, I'll come with you. And I went and we flew to some place, and this guy wanted to meet with him. And I'm sitting there listening to Mike, and I'm listening to this guy talk. And he goes, yeah, my hard costs are higher. And I was like, and I said, Mike, be quiet for a minute. Sir, what are your hard costs? And he goes, well, hard costs, like my time. I said, that's a soft cost. What's your hard cost?
Right.
And he goes, well, my time. I said, no. Let me explain to you. Hard cost is like, I had to go buy a phone. I had to go buy a computer. I had new equipment. I had to go get new talent. I mean, those are hard costs. Show me your hard costs. And he goes, well, I had to work 24 hours a day. I was like, you know what? Just yeah, you know that. I was like, the conversation's over. Mike's not paying you another dollar. You're done. You got what you got. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we good?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, started talking to Mike. I was like, Mike's not talking to you right now. I'm talking to you. And I'm telling you right now that the gig's up. You get nothing. And I was like, Mike, let's go. And I got up and I shook the guy's hand. I said, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And he was confused.
Yeah.
And I walked out with Mike and I was like, Mike, that's how you handle grifters. And he's been grifted by so many people. Dennis Montgomery, the hammer and the scorecard, right? Mm-hmm. There's probably a little bit of truth to everything that guy says, right? Probably a little bit of truth. Mm-hmm. But the guy is a literal clown. PCAPs and, China beamed in. No, they didn't beam in shit. There was never any beam in. You didn't need it. You had Eric Coomer. You had people that knew how to build PID controllers inside the machines, and you had Seidel, and Seidel went to Edison, and there's so many ways that you could just boop 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 done. They didn't need any sky beam in and from China and all these different countries. No, none of that happened. None. Is one person, two people, maybe three total in the entire deal. And yes, you had the Ruby and Shays and you had all that stuff. But the reality of it is, it only took a few people to steal the election in 2020, to steal it in 2022, to steal it in 2024. The foundations are the same, and the getting into it with rootkits and the ability to change the outcome without ever knowing you're a part of it based on what they gave you access to was lickety split. But he got taken advantage of. Conan Hayes. And guess who was connected to Conan Hayes, Dr. Z? Guess who brought Conan Hayes into Tina's world? Fed Bishops. Yeah. The Neil and Sharona show. The hairdresser / makeup artist who knows everything brings in Conan Hayes, develops this entire thing, Dr. Z, this entire thing. Let me just tell you, we're going to go over here and we're going to get this guy that's an IT guy, but we really don't want to get him to make the copy of the machine. No, do an image. No, we don't want him to do it. No. We just want him to get an ID, and then we want to give the ID to a federal CI, a CIA confidential informant whose dad was CIA, Conan Hayes. Dr. Z, his dad was CIA. You got the CIA son of a CIA that's in Mesa County that is using the ID, and then Sharona's bright idea is turn off the cameras. What the? Why? And here's what people don't know. Tina went to the IT department in Mesa County and says, can you make me an image? The hell if somebody wants to do something bad, why would she call up the Mesa County IT department and say, ring, ring, hey, can you make me a copy? Oh, no, you won't? Fine, I'll get it done because I got to investigate why all this bad stuff's happening.
Yeah.
And they've created such chaos.
Yeah.
That chaos favors the op, doesn't favor the people. And these same freaking people are destroying Mike Lindell.
Yeah.
And Mike owes me $4 million, Dr. Z. He owes me a lot of money.
Wow.
I still won't tell you a bad thing about Mike other than he's a fool and a man in his money, a fool and his money are soon parted. And I still pay Tina every month. I pay for all of her personal stuff, all personal bills, so she can keep her house and she can keep her belongings, her stuff while she's in prison. Do you know how likely it is that you'll lose everything when you go to prison?
Pretty likely.
Because your family will steal, everyone will steal it from you. we got a wonderful person named Marcy who literally just takes care of all of her business, and we pay her to make sure we take care of it so that the money can go towards the defense.
Yeah. Well, look, I believe you. I met Mike on a couple of brief occasions. I think he's a guy. My personal read is that he's a guy with a big heart, and I believe he got into this for the right reasons. And look, I left the entertainment business because Many reasons, but largely because I was tired of building egos and bank accounts.
Yeah.
And when I got to the patriotic influencer movement, or whatever you want to call it, in early 2021,
Same thing.
well, at that time, I was a little naive. I thought, well, it's maybe because I thought in the music business, it was 80-90% people, just awful people who just wanted to make money and get attention. And when I got to the Patriot movement, I thought it was like 40 or 50% on the high side. But after a few years spending time on tours and podcasts, it is the same. You're right. It's the exact same. And look, some of those people, like Mike Lindell and many others, I believe, got into it with the right intentions and then were spun around in so many directions that they lost the plot. They forgot that this was never about money or about attention or building a platform. It was about saving our country, which is the key to saving humanity, by the way.
Right.
And so there's very few people that I still am friends with in the podcast or patriotic movement. That's one of the reasons why I still talk to you, is you guys never lost the plot. You and David Clements and your group that you have over there at Untamed never lost the plot. You never enriched yourself. You just said, you not only did you lose hundreds of millions by not being able to sell your business at the beginning of this, which you told me when we first met, but now you lost another 4 million by trying to do the right thing by Mike Lindell, who needed someone exactly like you to fix what was going on there. And I was so glad when I heard you went to run that. And I was like, wow, this could turn into something really big. And it could be like a really professionally done thing, because I know how detail oriented you are. And I know how you don't put up with any bullshit from anybody. And I thought, wow, Joe could really fix whatever's going on over there and turn it into something really big. And to hear that it didn't work, and then to hear that you lost more money doing it. I resigned. I understand that, but my point is, it doesn't matter, right? It didn't work. You tried to do the right thing, and it didn't work, and it cost you money on top of it. That's just this is the sad state of where we are, and the sad state of why Tina is in jail. To bring it all the way back around, is because she was also spun in so many circles, as you've detailed on many occasions, by many different people saying things in her ear that caused certain things to happen that maybe could have been handled a better way. And still, none of that adds up to her deserving to be in jail right now. That's the real tragedy here, is Tina never sold out. She still does have a good heart. She just trusted some people in the wrong way and got chewed up and spit out by this same corrupt system that we're talking about with the OJ thing and the JFK files and the Epstein files. It's all part of the same system. Eric Coomer is just a stooge of that system. He's an operative of that system. And you were one of the early ones to call him out, which is why you got attacked so heavily, right? Because at that time, it wasn't a very safe thing to do, and you're still paying for that. Again, this is why Untamed Truth, that's why I'm here. I don't go on very many shows. I watch very, very little shows. But you guys have always stayed true. You've always had integrity. You've always cared about what the truth is. And to hear you say that Mike Lindell owes you $4 million and you still won't say a bad word about him, that says a lot to me, and it says a lot to the people out there. Because you don't owe him that, but you still do it anyway because it's the right thing to do.
Well, I mean, look, I care about Mike. I care about Mike. I care about the fact that he has very simple cases against Dominion and Smartmatic and Eric Coomer and all these very simple cases. And those pieces of shit, most of those lawyers have taken millions from him. Everyone sees Mike as a mark.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't, when Mike asked me to borrow money, I went to my wife and I was like, look, I feel like I should do this. She's like, well, and I went to my friend and I was like, Michelle, I need some money from you. Michelle's like, okay, I'll do it. You want me to do it, Joe? I'm like, yeah. Okay. And then I went to two of my other friends that are fairly wealthy. And I was like, I want you to invest in this. And they were both like, okay, Joe, you asked me to do it, I'll do it. And I was like, invest it as if you're never going to see it again.
Yeah.
And, you know, the hard part is I didn't have the money to give, but I gave. And the part that irritates the shit out of me is when pieces of trash like Neil Bishop and Sharona Bishop make themselves look like the victim when they have done nothing. They have done nothing, zero, to help Tina Peters. If I see Neil Bishop in a room, I pray that I have the ability to step away from throwing him around like a rag doll. I pray I have that ability. I pray that I can just step away from him. But these people are absolutely liars. Yeah. Absolute liars. And to give up the $3 million, and then it's actually $3 million and then 1.1 million that's owed to me from Frank's speech. But they just make it up as they go along. They're just nothing but slandering little pieces of shit. And frankly, what they've done to Mike is absolutely abhorrent. The amount of money that they have siphoned off of Mike Lindell and bringing in a federal CIA person into Tina's realm and then creating some sort of chaotic mess. Tina was charged for the chaotic mess.
Yep.
Do you realize that? Do you understand?
Yep. Yep.
I mean, people need to understand that Tina was charged with the chaotic mess. She was not charged with looking into the election machines.
Yeah.
She was charged with influencing a public official. And then guess who brought in what's his name? Ron, the guy overseas. Ron.
Oh, the monkey dude.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
That was Sharona Bishop. So Sharona Bishop is everywhere. Neil, her husband, is everywhere. He's a Fed. He's a known Fed. Sharona's a hairdresser. And a hairdresser now creates this chaos. Tina was charged 9.5 years, not for the work that she did. They created an opening of chaos that allowed for them to charge her with crimes, and then the judge did the rest, just deny her defense. Yeah. This is not hard for the Department of Justice to see.
Right.
They could see all of it. And yet, this is where it comes down to.
That's why I'm willing to say that Tina made mistakes, and the mistakes were trusting the wrong people that dragged her into that chaos. The mistake was obviously not looking into the election. I wish she had surrounded herself with better people that would have protected her from being led down these paths. And again, just because, like you said it so perfectly. She was charged for those mistakes. She wasn't charged because she looked into the election that everybody knows was fraudulent and was rigged. She was charged because she trusted the wrong people and they got her to do and say things that weren't done the right way and said the right way. And then she basically, entrapped herself in this mess that she doesn't belong in. And then for them to say that you're her, on top of that, for the people that perpetrated that mess, to come out and say that you're her handler and you guys are not doing right by her, what else are they going to say? Because we all know that when the truth comes out, it's going to point back to them. You just told the truth because you're the untamed truth guy. And guess what? They know the truth and they know that that's going to come out. So of course they're trying to point it at you so that nobody looks at them, but that's not going to work. We're now in the age of transparency and everybody's going to show their true colors. And they're all going to have to be accountable for whatever those true colors are, which is why I've been telling people, my friends and anybody who watches my shows for over a year now, it's time to clean up your own house. Make sure you're doing everything right. You're saying the right things. You're doing the right things because everybody is going to get exposed now. This is what the Great Awakening is. It's not just about exposing the inner workings of the CIA, assassinating a president and the inner workings of rigging an OJ trial and the inner workings of rigging elections and yada, yada, yada. It's about revealing the inner workings of each and every one of us. We're not going to be able to hide anymore who we are. And so there are certain people again, like you guys, that I still resonate with. Most of the patriotic influencers, in my opinion, have already exposed who they are. They're grifters. They care about money. They care about their own platform and their own ego. Oh, I have to support my family by tweeting all day. Give me a fucking break. Get a life. Like to the point where many of them, and I'm not talking about Owen Schroyer, who actually showed footage of being swatted, but we had about a dozen quote, MAGA influencers last week claim that they got swatted. Not one of them had one Ring camera image, one cell phone image of them getting swatted. The only things they posted were photos of a pizza delivery person, which supposedly was sent there to make sure that they were home, and then they were swatted. But you didn't take any photos of the SWAT team as they were arriving. You don't have Ring cameras on your house if you're such a high profile person. Give me a fucking break. Yeah. These people are grifters.
100% grifters.
They're literally trying to get more followers by pretending to be swatted. How much more of a fucking piece of shit can you be?
Yeah. I don't know, actually. I don't know. All I know is that if you were going to do, and I remember, I just want to go back to in time, and the crazy part is, but every time I turn around, I was saving Mike, Dr. Z. Every time. Yeah. I was asked to come to the symposium in whatever it was, August or September of 2021. Okay. Let's take a minute. Apollo, we're going to take a minute and do this, I think. I'm going to deviate. Somebody called me and said, hey, can you go to the symposium thing? Mike wants you to be there. Okay, sure. I'll come. He'll just send him stuff. He'll pay your expenses. I'm like, to come to this event? I was like, nah, I'm good. I say, only thing is I gotta bring my gun. So I gotta bring my weapon or I can't go. I brought a guy named Don Powers there with me. And he showed up, went through, they had a metal detector. I was like, yeah, I'm not walking through the metal detector because I have a gun. And the guy's like, well, you can't come in. I was like, okay, I'm leaving. So they were like, wait, I'll go check. I was like, guys, listen, I'm not coming in without a gun. I don't know any of these people. If I come in, I'm coming in with a gun. So I come in with a gun. I get inside and pandemonium ensues. It's unbelievable. They have all these people that were paid to be there to go through PCAPs. Dr. Z, you want to tell me how many PCAPs were actually given to them?
I'm going to guess none.
Yeah, none. Zero. And they brought, and they had this deal, $5 million. And I went, and I remember saying this to Kurt Olson. I go, wait, hold on a second. You put up a $5 million deal that they got to prove that the PCAPs are not, that these aren't real PCAPs. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, are you stupid? He's like, don't worry. They'll never be able to, they have to prove that. And I was like, bro, do you even know when you set Mike up for this deal, the concept of PCAPs? Do you know what packet captures are? Like, do you even have any idea? I mean, and then the PCAPs that they actually gave them that they said was a sample was a complete setup. Because they came off of a university website. All you had to do is Google them, which is what I did. I Googled it. In the meantime, I had to make sure that I was like, look, this is a disaster. I'm a fixer. All these guys are sitting in these 2 rooms. There's 2 rooms side by side. You had Harry Hursty. You had a bunch of guys in there, right? And I walked in and started sitting down talking to them. I was like, well, let's say the PCAPs are, I don't know. And they're like, do you think it's true? And I was like, absolutely not. I said from the beginning, day one, boom, they don't exist. And I built some pretty good relationships with some guys in there where they knew that I knew. And I was like, well, here, let me tell you what I think. And here's the stuff that I think. And I shared with them some models. And then I go, here. And I handed a drive to them. And I go, this is the image of Antrim County. Go to work. And so they're like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. Tell me what you find. And I put it in front of it, and Harry Hursty turned white as a ghost. I said, this is 100% all the information, all the files for Antrim County. Go to work. And so he goes in, tears it apart. And then I go upstairs and I go looking for Conan. I get to the back of the stage. I wasn't invited back there. And people kept asking me questions. And I'm like, all right, I don't even know why I'm here. I wasn't supposed to be on stage. And they go, we need someone to put it on stage, but put Altman on stage. And I was like, all right. Completely. And I go, where the hell is Conan Hayes? They're like, he's upstairs. And I was like, great, let me go. So I go upstairs because someone said Conan Hayes, Conan Hayes, Conan Hayes. This is after me meeting with Draza, who's amazing, brilliant mathematician, meeting with Mark Cook downstairs. They basically had a system that they could show you that you could hack a Dominion system. There's people in the audience. I was told just before I got there that Tina Peters was on her way there. I called Tina. Tina's like, I have all the goods. Da, 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 da. I was like, Tina, be very careful going out there. This is not a game. This is not a game, Tina. Oh, yeah. I'm going out there. Mike's going to fly me out. Da, da, da. I'm like, you don't understand. Now, keep in mind, I had gone through people coming to my house trying to kill me and my family. I had gone through people doing bad things to me at my company, having to leave the company. I'd gone through January 6th, having to go to what is it called? The State Department. I'd gone through all the slander that I've gone through for however many months it was. And so I show up to the symposium. Go upstairs. I get in the room. Guess who's there? There's two people there. A good guy and a bad guy. Good guy, Waldron. Colonel Waldron. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it right now. Dude is straight up 100% solid as rock. And Conan Hayes sitting in the room. I walk over and I said, Conan, show me these PCAPs. And he's sweating bullets. I said, quit fucking around and show me these PCAPs. And he goes in his computer and he's like, well, Dennis Montgomery and everyone downstairs is like, Dennis Montgomery's in the hospital in Florida. So Dr. Z, you know what I did? I started calling people. And I was like, here's Dennis Montgomery's stuff. This is where he lives. Go find him. Dr. Z, do you think he was in the hospital?
I'm going to guess no, Joe.
He was in a grocery store.
Perfect.
I had a picture of him in a grocery store. It's like, well, here's a picture. Dennis Montgomery's not in the hospital. And somebody said, well, I called the hospital. I asked for Dennis Montgomery. And he answered the phone. I was like, bullshit. Stop fucking lying.
Jesus.
Stop lying. I mean, from day one, Dr. Z, I have literally been as consistent as you possibly can. Just get to the bottom of the bullshit. You want to know why? Because I wanted to be done with it. I wanted to get back to my life.
Right.
I wanted to get back to my wife. I wanted back to my life. I wanted to stop the nonsense. And so far, I had alienated my friend Patrick Byrne, who started out helping me. I got let off a cliff by Linwood, who's a retard. Okay. I went through this whole thing. I didn't know what was up. People would call me, this is a bad person, this is a bad person, this is a bad person, this is a good person, this is a bad person. Pick a side, da, 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 da. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on here? Oh, the Illuminati thing for Dr. or for Mike Flynn. And I'm thinking, my gosh, are you guys serious? The prayer of the devil. I'm like, stop, just stop, shut the hell up, all of you. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what mature people do. They go, what the hell?
Right.
First time that I met David Clements was at this deal. First time I met Steve Bannon, got on the show, talked a little bit about what I knew, right? Got bad mouthed by a bunch of people to Bannon. So Bannon's like bad mouth, you be bad mouth, Mike. I'm like, I don't bad mouth anybody. I mean, but I don't have the patience that people have for stupid. Right? I don't like stupid people. I don't like grifters. I just don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to say that Bannon's that, because I don't think Bannon's that. But my point is that people just start picking sides. This, that, the other, this, not right, boom, boop, boop, boop. I'm like, for fuck's sake, are you kidding me? I sit there with Conan. I look at him and I was like, bro, you don't have PCAPs. He's like, no, we do. Who validated it? I validated it. You validated it. Okay, then show it to me. And he goes into his file and he pushes a button. He goes into this. And he must think that I'm a moron. Because I'm watching him as he keystrokes everything. And here's what he's doing. He's going to clicking in an account and then clicking out and then clicking in another account, clicking in the same account, and looking at it and scrolling up with the thing. And I'm like, this retard. This is retarded. It's an Apple. He's on an Apple computer. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, show me these PCAPs. I was like, I'm going to do you a solid. I gave the guys downstairs a copy of the Antrim County image. They can salivate over that. And then I went down there and Harry Hersey's like, oh, these came from 2 different computers and just made up a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Like, none of what you're saying is true. But I kept them all. I kept every one of those. And by the way, the great part about having this conversation right now is I wasn't going to have it. Mm-hmm. Dr. Z, I feel like you're interviewing me. When I got on the stage and I was upstairs and there was a conference room, you go up these stairs and there's a conference room over here in the back office area in this pavilion thing. And Sharona Bishop is over there talking to Mike and Kurt Olson's there. And I'm like, Kurt, let me run through some stuff with you. And I ran through it. He goes, dude, I like the way you think. And that can mean 2 things. One, this guy's too smart. Holy shit, he's going to see through this pretty quick. And I did. Lickety split. Took me a couple minutes. I was like, PCAPs are bullshit. They don't exist. By the way, Dennis Montgomery is literally in a grocery store. He is not in the hospital. He's like, oh. And they're talking about putting Tina Peters on the stage. And I was like, that's the stupidest fucking idea I've ever heard in my life. And I'm sorry I'm cussing, but this is exactly what I said to him. I said, that's dumb. Here's what's going to happen. I told him exactly what was going to happen. I literally said, this is what is going to happen. You're going to put her on stage. She's going to get the clapping of the people out in the audience. It's going to embolden her. She's going to speak more. She's going to add more emotion to it. Things are going to happen. Chaos is going to set in, and it's going to be bad for Tina Peters. Dr. Z, what do you think happened? I mean, what do you think happened?
Well, I watched it when in real time, live, not knowing you guys at the time. I watched it. Everything you said did happen. And I mean, look, the proof is that she's in jail now because of all that. That was the beginning of the end for her. I remember watching that hype storm of like, oh, wow, they really caught. They have the evidence. And again, like, she did have the evidence, but it was all handled incorrectly. It was all to set her up to take a fall so that they could make sure that nobody spoke up again. Just like the Eric Coomer lawsuit with you and what that did to Fox News and Newsmax, that they just stopped talking about it because they were sued by Dominion. Yeah, okay, but just because you're sued doesn't mean anything. Like, you guys know that this happened. Why would you stop talking about it just because you're threatened with a lawsuit? Because most people don't have your commitment to truth and don't want the hassle. And I mean, let's not forget that Fox News committed treason on live TV on November 3rd, 2020. So,
100%.
I mean,
what
do we expect that they're going to do?
My point is that summer in 2021, they were putting together the Lindell TV network, right? Mm-hmm. Mike Lindell spent $2 million on an outdated Drupal site to house Lindell TV, Frank's Beach. Yeah. $2 million. And they came to me and asked me to go in and look at this equipment. And I was like, okay, well, we need to do this equipment, this stacks. So I made a phone call, did a solid, got them a quote for a Dell VX Rail stack. They could have done everything that they wanted to do. It's going to cost them just at $2 million. Do you know what happened instead?
Ready? Yep. Oh, yeah.
Ready? They ran him right off a cliff. They ran him right off a cliff and had him spend $8 million.
Yeah.
On equipment. $8 million, bro. $8 million. And they ghosted me on that equipment. They're like, yeah, Joe, we want your help. I'm like, okay. Now keep in mind, at the symposium, you had Ron Watkins, right? Code Monkey. You had an image of the Mesa County that was signed by Conan Hayes, and they doxed him in the thing, which I don't even know why. Why would you dox the guy that's a federal CI in the deal on the stage with Tina? Why would you put stuff out there out of control and play chicken with the federal government and the state government? Why would you do that? Unless you were trying to set her up.
Correct.
They found a mark. They found a mark, right? I mean, I could tell you
the
stories.
Same people that are calling you her handler were assigned to be her
handlers.
Handlers.
Yes.
It's the same playbook that the Democrats use. Everything they accuse you of is the exact thing that they're doing. Because they're feds, and they're also stupid.
They're bad.
As we talked about earlier, you can be a traitor and an idiot, and
at the same time.
we've seen hundreds, thousands of these people, and the folks you're talking about seem to be the same thing, just retarded feds. God knows what the feds have on them that are forcing them to do this, because they're not smart enough to do this on their own. And they're obviously being forced to do it because they know how wrong it is, and they know what the implications are, and they know how this is going to end. They're going to be the ones in jail ultimately. Tina's in jail now, which is a travesty. But ultimately, Jenna Griswold and these clowns will be there. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it gets worse as you go down it. Mike was spending between $600,000 and $800,000 on infrastructure payments on a system called Drupal. It was absolute dog shit. Bro, it is unconscionable. And so I came in, let's call it symposium number 2. I don't even know what it was. And he had a lagging, and everything was going really badly. And they had TriCasters and all this the equipment. And I was like, guys, slow it down and buffer your feed, and you won't have a problem with it freezing at the site. And they're like, no, it doesn't work. So I'm in the back office, and I'm like, Mike, what are you doing? And he starts yelling at me. I was like, man, don't yell at me. I'm just trying to tell you how to fix it. I'm going to fix it. I'll fix it for you, right? I'm a fixer. I know how to fix stuff. Yeah. I'm really good at it. I'm like really, really good at it. And a week later, I'm like, listen, you guys are overspending on everything. I'll do a fixed bid contract. I'll reduce your cost by about 70%. Here's what we'll do it. And they thought, dude, there's no way you'll be able to do it. I was like, yeah. And by the way, we need to rebuild your platform because that Drupal site is out of date. Okay. $2 million you spent on this. $600,000 to $800,000 you're spending a month. I get it down to $161,000 total in order to rebuild everything. Right? Then he has some clown that wants to take him public and do a CF round funding $5 million. And so, fast forward, symposium number 3. I get up there and I'm like, all right, here's the technology we're going to use, and here's how we're going to use it, and here's how we build it, and here's how. So I walk through the whole platform, right? All the stuff, right? Ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
We go public in 9 months. He had some clowns that were doing a bunch of stuff, took a bunch of money from him. This is why I say Mike's the mark. Tina's the mark. These people created marks.
Yep.
And they just went and they built them. And the lawyers took millions and millions of dollars. I'm talking, he probably spent $12 to $15 million on legal fees. Dr. Z, it's not $12 to $15 million. It's maybe $1.5 million total. That's what it should have cost to get to where they are right now, $1.5 million. It's really simple. You duplicate the efforts of other people. Oh, we have to do all this stuff. And my God, I'm like, just hire some competent attorneys. That's it. And now he finally has a competent attorney. Mike has a competent attorney. His name's Chris. Super good guy. I mean, the guy's a freaking animal. And so I have trouble because they've done so much bad stuff. Dr. Z, they've done so much bad stuff. Apollo was there for a lot of it. I mean, actually, Apollo was there for all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got abandoned because there was a conflict because I took over the infrastructure, and I actually like Brandon House. I think he's a good guy. Sorry. I mean, I do. I mean, he made money on it. God bless him, right? But he went to Patriot TV. And so I had to, in 30 days, rebuild an entire network with no equipment and get it relaunched when the abandonment was literally like day 1. And this whole time, I'm flying all over the place with Mike, trying to get him to stop shooting himself in the face. And then his own lawyers inside of his company, right? I mean, there's so much to the story that I really want to tell, and I think it's time that we tell it. I mean, Mike has been made to look like the court jester. And in many cases, he deserves to be that.
Mm-hmm.
The pillow guy, right?
Yep.
I don't think Mike has a malicious bone in his body. I just don't. I think he has a bunch of foolish bones in his body. I think that sometimes he operates from a position where he's just being dumb. And by the way, I don't ever want to go back to the place where I was running something where I had to take orders from Mike, because you have to figure out ways. And by the way, nobody ever paid me a thing. Nobody paid me. I had fixed bid contracts for people on my team that's the job that they had to do. And I made nothing. I lost money, an enormous amount of money, while everyone else grifted from Mike. Grift. I built his model for Cause of America. I built the back end for Cause of America. I built the Lindell offense funnel so that he could actually raise money. I used my databases, my people, my never got paid for any of it. And this piece of shit, Neil Bishop and Sharona Bishop, want to come out and they want to make me the bad guy because Tori called out Sharona Bishop as a Fed. And then she's like, you have to do something about it. I'm like, I'm not going to do anything about it. It's your all's deal. You guys figure it out.
Well, I hope that felt good to get off your chest. It certainly look a little lighter. But look, here's the thing, man. What's the parallel here? I'm listening to you tell this story.
Yeah.
You're the Trump character in this story. You're the one trying to fix everything, expose everything, reduce cost, end the grifting.
Yeah.
And who gets attacked the most? The Trump character. Now, I don't want to compare you to Trump because I don't want to put more of a spotlight on you. Joe Oldman said he's Trump. But you are a saint now, so I guess. But in this story, those storylines parallel. You're the one actually trying to find the truth. You're the one actually trying to expose the handlers. You're the one actually trying to expose the setup, the grifts, all of it. And because of that, you're the one that's called names. You're the one that's persecuted, prosecuted. You're the one that gets all of this stuff. So look, I'm not a real doctor, but I do play one on podcasts. And I have a knack for, even when I'm not talking, people just want to tell me their story. And I'm glad that you did, because there's a lot of stuff you told me there that I didn't know. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that needed to hear this, especially they need to hear that you don't think that Mike has a malicious bone in his body. I think that's a huge statement given all the other stuff you said.
All the stuff that have been done to me. I mean, look, he's done some bad stuff to me. Yeah. And I don't think he did it because I think he did it because he was hurt. He felt like I abandoned him when I resigned. Right. But at the same time, I told him, I was like, what you're doing with Tina is wrong. You gotta right this ship. But people want to grift off of Mike. They want to draft off of Mike. And it's all about Mike bad. Mike's not bad. I mean, and there are some good players. I mean, there's this guy, Ian, that's the CFO for Frank Speech. I don't actually get along with him much right now from the business side, because I think that I have a difference of opinion. But from a personal standpoint, super smart. Right? Super smart. But I think that we have to, Dr. Z, we have to start being honest about what's really happening. And frankly, this whole Coomer thing, what amazes me about everything that's happening is that they are keeping it in disparate environments and have gotten people all separated. And so now we're having a conversation about how do we bring it all together? I'm talking to Jim Hoft over Gateway Pundit. I'm like, guys, listen, we've got to get all this stuff together. But they've done a great job of stealing and grifting and creating this chaos with these really bad people. These are really bad psychopaths. They're just terrible human beings. They've done bad things to Mike Lindell. They've literally stolen the spirit of Mike Lindell and made him look like the court jester. And, if President Trump or anyone's listening, I'm going to tell you right now, you can like what I say or don't like what I say. You can say whatever you want. You can say, man, Joe, you could find a better way to say it. Well, President Trump has been a really good example for me. Just speak the truth and just let the chips lay as they may and be very consistent in your character. That's it. That's really, Dr. Z, what we have to do. That's what we have to do. We've been on here a long time, so yeah.
Amen, brother. No, I think it was well worth it, well worth the extra time spent. And, I appreciate everything that you're doing for Tina, and I appreciate everything that you do for humanity, to just speak the truth unabashedly and take what comes with it, because that's how you dismantle it. You said that you look up to Trump. You should. He's showing us the model of how you dismantle this stuff. You can't be nice. You can't just sit around and go, oh, that's too bad. You have to get in their faces, stand in the gap, as you like to say. That's how we do this. And you're setting the example on a different level than Trump of how to do this, how to expose the truth. And look, it's a lot of people have wondered why Lindell hasn't been around Trump's circle too much lately. I think you just told us why. Because if you know that, I would bet you that Trump and his people know what's going on over there, and that Lindell has been co-opted and used as a mark by the same apparatus that's going after him on a different scene and a different level. So these stories need to be told. That's why your platform is now called The Untamed Truth, and I'm here for it, man. That's all I want. I don't care. I've said for years, I don't care what the truth is. Don't fucking lie to me. Just tell me the truth. We can figure it out. If you just tell me what the truth is.
The truth sucks, and I still like it.
Yeah. It's better than the alternative.
It's better than the alternative. All right, so I'm gonna pray us out. Dr. Z, how do people follow you?
You can go to at Zilosophy_for_all on X, or Zilosophy4all on Rumble, Truth, and Telegram.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for being on here with me. Thanks for listening to me.
Thanks for having me, man.
It is really difficult, and I hope to put this out there so people can actually hear, especially this part about the Mike Lindell deal. And there's more to it. I mean, there's so much more that I can elaborate on what even happened at these symposiums and ultimately what happened with what we were able to build. But I do want you to know that sometimes we have to get to a place where we punch people in the face. And sooner or later, people start figuring out that punching people in the face is real. And Neil wants to call me a clown. Call me a clown. And the people that want to support him are nothing more than the high school people that want to stand behind the bully because they're afraid to get called the same name by this little clown, by this piece of trash. So, I'm going to continue to fight, and I hope other people will continue to fight and seek the truth. It's really important that you do, in my opinion. So
I agree, man. Well said.
Yeah. All right, let's pray it out. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
All right, Father God, thank you for Dr. Z. Thank you for the time we had together. Thank you for Apollo. Thank you for the many people that are fighting for our nation. Even as we think that things are slowing down, they speed up, Father. And we know that there's a goal of restoration to restore you to our community, to our country, to the world, to humanity, Father. We know that there is a goal that we must seek. And we know that there is a mission that we may stay focused on. And that we may stay forgiving, but we also need to hold people accountable. Father, you gave us so many tools and so many blessings and so many talents, and we just ask you, Father, they be used for your glory. Father, I ask you to bless President Trump and Elon Musk in their endeavors right now to kind of clean up the federal government, with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and so many others inside the government that are doing great things. Help us, Father, that we may not have the erosion of public trust leak into the leadership we have today, and that they may get the support that they need from us, the people, to continue down this path. Father, I ask you to root out those people that would do evil. You would root out those people that would burn down Tesla stations and would root for the destruction of our own nation. Father, I would just ask that somewhere along the line that we could have patience and peace, but that we can also hold people accountable and run towards a society where there's not these opportunity deserts that we seem to be finding all over our nation. We're a nation in turmoil, Father. We're in a perpetual state of chaos. So, Father, I just ask you that we would clear out that chaos and drive the devil back into the hole it came from. I ask you, Father, for wisdom, for courage, and for commitment to do the right thing, regardless of how hard it may be. And Father, forgive me for using harsh words on this podcast. I apologize. I'm sorry. I ask these things, Father, humbly, while giving thanks for all the things that you have put in my life. In the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All
Amen.
right.
Beautiful.
God bless you, brother. I will
God bless you.
I will see you soon. Thank you for all the work you're doing. Thank you for standing in the gap for Tina. And thank you for your continued support and the ability to speak truth so eloquently and clearly. God bless you.
God bless you too. Thanks, Joe.
We will see you guys again tomorrow. It's Friday, so I hope it's a banger tomorrow. Stay tuned for Wayne Allen Root. I'll be sharing his information as well. And remember that, that we are the ones that are supposed to be the ambassadors of truth. So if you like the show, make sure that you share it. Hit the little button on the thing, on either pilled.net or Rumble or Facebook or wherever you are. Just go ahead and share it. Ephesians 6:10 through 20. Jeff, you're right. Let me see if I can get some other notes here real quick. God bless you, Joe Apollo and Dr. Z, Susan A. Rice, the good Susan Rice. Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all the joy and peace in believing that you are the power of the Holy Spirit. You may abound in hope. Thank you for that. Pray, stand, speak, act. We can't abandon that at all. So hit the share button. Make sure you share it on multiple platforms. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more, make sure you go over, give us a 5-star review, and make sure you follow us. If you're on BEK or one of the radio stations that we were broadcast on, remember, untamednation.com. Got a lot of cool things happening. God bless you all. We'll see you soon.